Hello everyone, it is Joe here from Omnipoke, the channel that brings you guys everything Pokemon. If you're looking for PTCGO codes, including the stuff from Fusion Strike, make sure you go ahead and check out the Potown store. You can get a 5% discount on your order using that code Omnipoke. For today's video, we are looking over the newly revealed Starbirth cards. These, alongside the cards from the Starter Deck 100, are going to combine to be our Brilliant Stars set, a really impactful and important set for us, because, of course, in theory at least, fingers crossed, the Brilliant Stars metagame will be the first IRL event format that we can be playing in. So a lot of people are interested in Brilliant Stars because, of course, you know, we so far have regionals and other dates in the calendar that are yet to be cancelled. So we'll see how that goes in the future. But hopefully this will be the first in-paper, format we can be playing for a long time. So these cards are going to be really important for getting back into IRL play. And certainly some interesting stuff here that will be warping the metagame quite drastically. I've jumped all the way down to the trainers. I always like to start here. I think they give us the best reflection of the cards that we then jump back up to the top and look through. But yeah, we've got some great new stuff. Of course, Brilliant Stars is going to bring the new mechanic along with it, which is going to be V Stars. These are evolving 2-prize Pokemon that come with once per game effects, either an attack or an ability from what we've seen so far on certain Pokemon. And these are also going to be pretty interesting and have a interesting relationship with the current VMAXs. So a bit of a power struggle there, potentially. So we'll see how that goes and discuss the new cards today. So let's jump into the trainers. We have a reprint of Freshwater set, which does nothing for standard formats. We have Ultra Ball reprint, and this does a lot for standard format. Not being too dramatic, Ultra Ball completely changes the game for like a number of archetypes here. Discarding 2 cards, surprisingly, is a massive upside for a number of cards and archetypes. Melanie decks really have been yearning for discard synergy for a long time, so now having 4 Ultra, 4 Quick Ball is phenomenal. Same thing for Metal Saucer. We could easily be seeing quad Genesect style decks that can realistically attack for 210 damage, minimum, pre-tablets, turn 1 going second. That is also going to be the Magma Basin Stadium, which is going to be the forefront of every fire attacking deck going forward now, I believe. And it means that we can then use cards like Entei V and Victini V aggressively on turn 1, again going second. So I think immediately, just from Ultra Ball coming out, first of all, the format gets way more consistent because we can also combine this with the Lumineon V, which allows us to get specific supporter cards for turn 1, which is insane. But also, there's a lot of decks that can aggressively attack turn 1. Think about which archetypes actually aggressively attack turn 1 in the game right now. At the moment, it's if you draw well with Mew VMAX because you use Meloetta Sparkle. And it's if you seriously high roll with Suicune Melanie or with Urshi Melanie. And none of those are super reliable, but now with additional outs with 4 Ultra, 4 Quick Ball, and the Magma Basin, we will have many, many archetypes that can reasonably KO things going second. And I'm talking about like 2-prize Pokemon they can knock out pretty consistently. So the tempo of the game is going to be completely shifted just because of Ultra Ball, like immediately, and Lemillion to an extent as well, because you can guarantee Melanie and this, that, and the other support cards are going to be important to tutor as well in certain instances. Also, Ultra Ball, I'm going on a little bit here, but Ultra Ball makes Crobat a far better card. Very, very often with Quick Ball, Crobat is just a panic, like 3-card dig, whereas making that a 4-5-card dig is just such a big deal. And this could also be really important for Eternitus, even, making that Crobat draw engine much more fluid, and you have much more cards that you can churn throughout the deck. So, yeah, so many reasons why this is a monstrous change to the game, and I think it fundamentally changes how we will be interacting with one another on that opening turn, and going second could be desirable for some archetypes, and that's been something that we haven't seen in a long time. Even though the Mew archetype has that aggressive Meloetta approach, they'll still pretty much always choose to go first. But now I think it's reliable enough for some of these aggressive, basic attacking archetypes to go second, and I think that's an interaction we haven't seen for a long time. So, Ultra Ball, I bow down to you. Like, some people hate this card, right? Because it just makes the game so consistent, and it makes these aggressive combo decks kind of work. And it is going to speed up the game, but I think everyone can set up now, and that's such a huge sigh of relief. I just think that's so nice. We're going to have Quick Ball, Ultra Ball, VIP Pass, Capture Energy, and then Evo Incense as well for the evolutions. So, yeah, there's no reason for you to brick anymore. Ultra Ball, you are going to completely change the game. I'm not being overdramatic when I say that. It is mind-boggling how different deck construction can be now that we have extra discard synergy. Super, super important. Even think about Genesect, of course. Genesect is constantly filtering cards. You can see things like Switch Cup going in to the Fusion Strike decks just because you want -1s. And Ultra Ball being able to filter out your excess sparkles and all your other nonsense that you don't actually need after like turn 1. Yeah, gorgeous card. So Ultra Ball even makes Genesect, which is probably the best card in the game right now, even stronger. So yeah, brilliant stuff. Next up we have Choice Belt. This is also worth a ramble. This is a really, really big tool card. The attacks of Pokemon this card is attached to deal 30 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon V. This encompasses VMAXs, this encompasses V Stars. They all have that keyword V in there. And a 30 multiplier, or a mod, I should say, on a tool card is huge. Right now we have Vitband, and we're tripling up on that. Vitband is the card that's currently seeing play even. But I think this is huge for a number of breakpoints that come straight to mind. Now we can see a lot more aggression from new cards from the set, actually. For example, the Arceus V Star is one I know a lot of people are excited about. And it does a vanilla 200, but oftentimes with its attack cost, you're probably going to try and use the new Twin Energy or the Double Colorless Energy that has a reduction of 20. Now you can actually put a Choice Belt on top of that, and then you put yourself back into 210 damage range, which knocks out a lot of Evolving V Pokemon, which I think is a really big deal. You can use this with Ice Rider. Push yourself up to one-hit KO pretty much every V-Star for the 2-prize KO just by discarding both energies. And it means that you can go Choice Belt plus Leon to one-shot on Mew even without Inteleon pings. And even with Inteleon pings, then you're just 2 away from knocking out opposing V-Maxes. So you've got Galarian Moltres, which can now one-shot Evolving V Pokemon. And again, this is something you can power up turn 1 now. Because you could Ultra Ball away Dark and Water, in theory, right? And then you can use Galarian Moltres' ability, then Lumineon for the Melanie, and Melanie attach, and you can actually attack with the Moltres, knocking out a V Pokemon turn 1. Straight away with a Choice Belt. It's a bit of a combo, of course, and I'm not saying that's going to happen all the time, but there's... The mod of 30 is like such a big deal. Obviously, Mew can easily play this as well. It's like an extra tablet, and it's far better than Vitband, which is being played right now. So yeah, I think this card is going to see a huge, huge amount of play. There are so many breakpoints where it's going to be important. Anything playing Inteleon right now, like this whole time we've been playing Inteleon to get ourselves that little bit closer to knockouts here and there, accumulating over a couple of turns. You just accelerate and front load that damage so much more with this Choice Belt. It's going to be super duper popular card, and as long as we have the Intel engine, you can cherry pick when to use this. So yeah, very, very strong Choice Belt there. One other thing. One of my friends mentioned Eternitus. Again, because Ultra Ball helps Crobat to draw you more cards. Choice Belt is also very good for Eternitus. You can get yourself up to 300 damage now, and then you're just Zigzagoon Scoop Up Net pings away. That was one way that we used to play Eternitus a long time ago to help us knock out big charmed tag teams. And now we could see a Choice Belt Zigzagoon Net trying to knock out VMAXs, so Eternitus gets pretty big. We have Pot Helmet, which is terrible. Rule box Pokemon no rule box Pokemon take 30 less damage. It doesn't matter. They can't tank. Useless. We have Kindler, which is also useless. We've actually seen this in English. I think this is a pretty bad card. It's trying to show off the fire synergy, but I don't think this is the best way to go about it when we have such good supporters already in the game. And like I said, now that we have Ultra Ball and Quick Ball and Research, we don't need additional discard synergy, which is what Kindler is trying to do here. You discard a fire from hand to look at the top 7 and put 2 cards into the hand. So it's kind of like a mixture of like a Misty's Determination and a Bill's Analysis. Neither of those cards were very, very strong. And the fact that you need to discard a specific card rather than just any card from hand makes it pretty much unusable, I want to say. Pretty bad. We also have Cynthia's Ambition. Draw until you have 5 in hand. If any of your Pokemon were knocked out during your opponent's last turn, draw until you have 8 instead. So this is pretty comparable to the Bruno supporter. And I think oftentimes, surprisingly, the Shuffle 4 from Bruno is stronger than the Draw up to 5 in those opening games when you're panicking. And I also think that the Shuffle 8 can be much stronger than the Draw up to 8. I think the difference is drawing up to 8 is significantly stronger if you're trying to build a evolving stage 2, where you hold one of the pieces, you try and draw into the other, like the rare candy combos, that sort of thing. So it's like comparable to Bruno, and I think it's losing that battle most of the time, especially because Bruno can also have the tower option. So overall, not great. We have Sharon's Care, very interesting supporter card. Put one of your colorless Pokemon that has any damage counters on it, and all cards attached into your hand. This is a very big deal, actually. We have some interesting colorless V Stars as well as V Maxes. Togekiss is one that I think a lot of people will look to straight away now that we have the new 2 colorless energy attachment card that we'll talk about in a moment. Togekiss can attack for just 1 attachment, and bouncing it with a Sharon's Care is going to be very nice here. And I think especially now that we have Choice Band, or the Choice Belt I should say, which is the V version of Choice Band, right? You can do still a reasonable amount of damage with the Togekiss. So Sharon's Care is going to be a nice card for the Togekiss VMAX players out there, or the hopeful Togekiss players. And also could be used with Arceus V Star. Arceus V Star only has 280 hit points, which is strange that those words just came out of my mouth, but it's actually a low threshold in this new format. So Sharon's Care could still be used with the Arceus, and is always like a nice one-off to have in the deck, because at any point you could just use Arceus's V-Star ability to tutor this out for the time when it's useful. But I don't think it's necessarily going to be like a quad Sharon Arceus style deck. But it's something to bear in mind, because the Arceus energy accelerates, so you don't mind that you're picking up a Sharon, because you can shove the new one into the active and like reattach energies from the deck to a new benched one, that kind of thing. So just a few notes there for the colorless stuff. We have a reprint of Research, and we also have Roseanne's Backup, which is way too slow for standard, but trust me, I adore this card for Cube format. I think this card embraces Cube more than any other card that I've seen, like, ever. I think this is the definition of, like, an awesome Cube and limited format style card. Could also be interesting for GLC. It's probably too slow for GLC format, because it's just shuffling resources back into deck, but because you're singleton, the value of getting some specific cards back into your deck, into that cycle, is super important. So Roseanne's Backup allows you to choose one or more of these 4 options. Shuffle a Pokemon, Tool, Stadium, or Energy. No, doesn't say basic energy, so it could be specials, back into your deck. So it's very slow. You're not getting any hand advantage. You're not digging towards these pieces, but you get them back into the deck so you can search them out again and reuse these sorts of things. And if these sorts of elements are all important enough, they could be huge. And like I say, I think it's going to be a balanced but super fun card for Cube. And I think for GLC, it's probably too slow to work, but could be relevant enough if you have an important enough like special energy. Like if you're the Dragon type or something and you want DDE back in the deck. If you're playing, I don't know, like Psychic and you want to get a Spell Tag back into the deck. These are the things that, and D-Valley, those sorts of cards where you're thinking these are like just good enough to try and reload once and get the value out of them again, could be worthwhile. Very, very much too slow for standard though. Reprint of Boss, Pog artwork, you love to see it. We have Collapsed Stadium as well, which I think is low-key very, very strong as well. Each player can't have more than 4 benched Pokemon. If they have 4 or more, they discard until they have 4 benched Pokemon. The player who played this discards first. So yeah, very nice. This is going to be a pseudo healing option, which I again think is a huge deal when we have so many Pokemon that have such high hit points that are so easily able to tank hits. Collapse Stadium is nuts. Just being able to retreat out your VMAX and collapse it into the discard pile so that your opponent's wasted an entire turn of attacking. Crazy, crazy good. This could end up being another control style card even, because we've already seen that there's that Sharon option where you can try and bounce Togekiss. You can also try and collapse a Togekiss into the discard pile if need be, or you can collapse any VMAX that you just want in the bin for later. There's of course Cheryl Synergy as well, where you can use this with the new Eldegoss DCE to undo damage from evolved Pokemon. The Collapse Stadium is a way that you can play other supporters on the turn. For example, this could be your Birdkeeper turn, where you Birdkeeper out into an Eldegoss, then collapse away your VMAX, then you Eldegoss shuffle back into the deck. So there's a lot of synergy. Just straight away I'm thinking of control. Straight away I'm thinking of being able to remove damage from play. Either easy bench targets for spread archetypes potentially, or just something that's taken a big hit. You're behind in the sort of attack race right now, and rather than allowing them to have a boss option for game, you can collapse it into the discard pile, which is going to be just brilliant. So I think Collapse Stadium, not a flashy card, but has a lot of great applications when we have things that are so easily able to tank damage. Really huge, actually. This is a fantastic Stadium card. And it also, punishes Eternitus. It punishes Genesect mildly, I guess. So yeah, very, very nice. Then we have another amazing Stadium card. We are being treated with trainers so far. We really are. I will be more concise when we get to the worst stuff, I promise, but we have to talk about the good stuff for a good amount of time. Magma Basin, we've also seen in English. Once during each player's turn, that player may attach a fire energy from the discard pile to one of their benched fire Pokemon. If that player does attach an energy to a Pokemon in this way, put 2 counters on that Pokemon. We've already got the Entei V, which we've already talked about, which is essentially the new Suicune, but a fire type. So you can straight away manually attach Basin and attack with Entei now, which is already a great option. There's also the Charizard V Star from this set. There's a Moltres from this set. And there's also things like Victini VMAX that could easily try and use this Basin as well, just to maintain its energy attachments and be relatively consistent at churning out that damage output. It could also improve just the numbers that you can churn out with the regular Victini Vs and make them relevant if you want to try and skew a prize race. So Magma Basin, incredible Stadium card. Just compare this to things like D-Valley of the past, where D-Valley was only ever that one constant energy gain that you have, or you're reducing rather than gaining attachments, and gaining attachments is way stronger. I don't care about the damage counters that you're placing a lot of the time, although you are sometimes hurting your thresholds, especially now that there is Choice Belt in here, and it's one less tablet for Mew and this, that, and the other here and there. But in general, this attachment is disgusting. The fact that it can stick in play and get additional value turn by turn is just crazy. And yeah, it's so good. It's going to be the backbone of every fire deck going forward. And yeah, it's bananas, honestly. Double Turbo Energy. I was struggling for the name of this card this entire time. I've been calling it fake DCE. But yeah, Double Turbo. It counts as 2 colorless energy cards, which is already fantastic. I've already mentioned the Eldegoss combo, where you can jump back into the deck constantly for 1 attachment, prevent yourself decking out as a control player, recycling Cheryl's to hand, that sort of thing. Very good for the Arceus V Star. Its attack cost is entirely colorless, and you will then be doing 180, which is still 2-shotting every VMAX easily, or now you can offset the double turbo with that Choice Belt to do 210, which is still knocking out a good amount of V Pokemon that are aggressive or trying to evolve. So really good card for sure. And I'm sure there's a ton of other things that I'm not thinking of just yet. Also the Togekiss, which we've mentioned with the Sharon combo. So yeah, very good. Also Mew, of course. Mew can also use double turbo energy. You can't use Max Miracle. You can only use Cross Fusion Strike, and that could be an issue if there are still things like Duraludon in the format. I could see it being difficult for Duraludon to still be in format if Fire becomes an oppressive archetype. I don't think Fire's going to be the very forefront of the game, just how I'm theory crafting it. It's still kind of combo-y. But I do think, we have to be a little bit concerned about being pure special energy based rather than having the option to wall break with Mew. But in general, double turbo energy, meaning that you don't need to play a lesser Sparkle. You can also cut basic energies, and you can just cut the fusion energies and go just pure 4 energy. Gaining space in a Mew deck is crazy because you just become even more consistent with your Genesect draws the entire time. You can bounce into the deck way more easily with your Mew as well. You can just be doing the 70 hit and run thing with the Mew much more easily. And the double turbo plus Choice Belt is the same as a Vit banded Mew right now in format. So having that reduction of 20 on double turbo isn't that big of an issue when you think about it compared to right now. So I could be seeing double turbo energy with, again, a more defensive Mew that plays Oricorio, and you have the option to bounce back into the deck at any point. So there's a lot of damage removal in the format right now, and Mew could also jump on that bandwagon. So yeah, lots and lots to talk about. Tanking with VMAXs is looking like a thing. Our damage thresholds get crazy. There's one-shot potential from a lot more things now, thanks to the Choice Belt. And yeah, keep an eye out for Basin, because it makes basically every fire card way better. And by the way, Ultra Ball makes the game very fast and makes us play lots of aggressive 2 prizes, in my opinion. with that all said, let's jump to the top and talk about some Pokemon cards. So let's make our way here. We'll start with the grass stuff. Again, I want to give quick nods to GLC and to Cube here and there whenever it's relevant. In this case, Exeggutor isn't relevant. Breloom also isn't relevant. Tropius has a bizarre ability that stops confusion. I don't know why it's not more universal, but there you go. We have this Growthal, which can search out grass Pokemon. Great for GLC, and also great for Cube, because there are much weaker Torterras which are valid, whereas this one is far too good for Cube. Good enough for GLC for certain. I think it becomes top tier GLC. Grass is already a very good type in GLC. Just the size of this guy, the damage he can do with Evo Press is crazy. And possibility for a Torterra Inteleon deck, really trying to go wide on the board and have lots of evolutions. Now we actually have a bench barrier. It's possibly reasonable to try and build this. You never know. We have some interesting Wormadams. Maybe cubable. Very much not good enough for standard. 30 plus 10 for each Pokemon in your discard pile is just too low of a threshold here. Mothim can do 120 when it evolves this turn for 2 colorless. No one cares. It's cubable for sure. Shaman V Star and the V. 190 hit points on the V is really bad. Being weak to fire is also very bad. 60 plus 40 is a low damage mod, so you only ever play this if you want to play the V Star. The V Star has 250 hit points, not great, but you are a 2-prizer. And Revenge Burst does 120 plus 40 more for each prize card your opponent has already taken for grass colorless. This is actually very good damage output. If your opponent's taken 5 prize cards, you're doing 320, and if they've taken 4 prize cards and you have the Vit Band, you do 310. Vit Band, what am I talking about? The Choice Band. Choice Belt. I'll get it right eventually. And 310 is also a great threshold, so now that we've seen the belt, the Revenge Burst hits a lot more things and is relevant. I can easily see this being a tech include in Leafeon, potentially, if there's still a reason to play Leafeon in this format, because I'm worried about the amount of fire. But yeah, this could be a tech card for that archetype. Star Bloom is also a decent tech ability, I want to say, the V-Star power. You can heal 120 from each of your grass Pokemon. Very annoying for Jolteon, very annoying for Urshifu. I know a lot of people are worried straight away because there's the new bench barrier from this set, but those archetypes aren't just going to die immediately, I don't think. But this Shaman could be a way that the grass decks don't have to play the mana fee, but can still have a relevant card in the deck that improves that matchup, which is currently a weaker matchup for Leafeon. We then have Charizard. There's already a Charizard V. I believe this is the stronger one. I've just gone past the right card, but here we go. The regular Charizard V does 80 for 3 colorless and does 220, I think, for 4 energy. So if you want to have an improvement on the 4 energy attack cost, you could use the old Charizard, or we play a split potentially as well. But if we are going to be playing Choice Belt in here anyway, the 180 isn't too bad of a disadvantage, and Incinerate is a better initial attack because you can discard tools, which is a small upside. So yeah, just a small note on the V there. But the V-Star seems very interesting, actually. 280 hit points on a 2-prizer, very, very strong. We have Explosive Fire doing 130 and 100 more if you have any damage counters on you, which you basically always will thanks to Magma Basin, which is just fantastic. And then you have the V-Star Power, which is Star Blaze. For 3 fire and a colorless, you do 320 and discard 2 energy from this Pokemon. Obviously, insane damage output. You're spending your V-Power to get a 1-hit KO, and taking 3 prizes is obviously very good. I think the race that you're going to try and do with a pure Charizard deck is mostly going to be Moltres either takes a cheeky 1 prize or sets up a 3-prize Pokemon for you to Explosive Fire KO them straight away. Or you Explosive Fire the 2-prizer after Moltres has taken the 1-prizer, and you just Star Blaze at one point during the game to take a big 1-hit KO. And I think with Basin, with energy attachments, and simply just by having Raihan in the deck, you can make this happen quite easily. So yeah, I think you can realistically win the game with Charizard in 3 attacks in almost every situation. Also, if you play Entei is more energy hungry, and it might force more Raihan into your list, but it's also potential for a Entei Zard as well to be a deck. So I have a lot of respect for Charizard. I think it's a very, very good card. It may seem too expensive to get the Starblaze working, but trust me, Basin is cracked. It will work. It will definitely work. We have a new artist on the scene, drawing an excellent Magmar. Absolutely insane. Worth the nod there. We have Magmortar and Electivire both doing some like shenanigans where if there's the other one in play, you do more stuff. It's terrible. We have this Moltres that I just mentioned. It's similar to Hooper. It's similar to like Zapdos. These sorts of very cheap attackers. You just do 20 for one fire, but if you have damage counters on yourself, you do 70 more. You're not affected by a weakness. So the idea is that you manually attach to your Charizard or your Entei or something of the like, and you use the Basin on Moltres to do that 90 damage. Very good for knocking out one prize Pokemon. Very good for setting up Charizard or Entei to then come in and KO after the fact. So having one prizes is actually going to be very important in the format. When I was talking about Ultra Ball earlier on and saying how many decks have that capacity to just bop anything going second, it's actually going to be really important, I think, to have a lot of one prize attacking Pokemon and just set up Pokemon to chill in the active if you are the player going first. Things like Sobbles, things like Mews, attacking Pokemon like Moltres and Hooper and whatever else, having any sort of pivot whatsoever. These feel like very important when we have a lot of things that can aggressively just smack straight away. Because you don't want it to be a two-prizer in the active that's getting the smackdown by a Genesect or by a Suicune or by an Entei, those sorts of things. You don't want it to be them. You would prefer just sacrificing the one prize and trying to race again later. So, yeah, I think Moltres is going to be very good with the Charizard deck, with an Entei Inteleon deck as well. I think it could work. So, yeah. Infernape is a meme. We have Lapras, which is terrible. Crawdont, which is also terrible. We have Empoleon, which is fun and interesting and great for my specific cube because I love Empoleon. Not good enough Standard or GLC, pretty sure. Could be used in GLC just as a panic draw option, but I think it's terrible. Water's got way better cards. We have Floatzel. Floatzel's great. Floatzel is a really good card. It is Junk Hunt. It is on a stage 1, but we have Zoroark in the format, and there's a lot of good water energy attacking control cards. I've already tried to make Zoroark water control work in the past with Azumarill and Seaking, and now having Floatzel to your toolkit is very, very good. It's a huge upgrade on what we currently would be using, which is Dialga and Morpeko. Now you're getting an extra item each turn from this card. It's certainly worth the payoff of being a stage, or the work of being a stage 1. Yeah, this card is very good. A lot of good controlling cards in this set. There's a potential for a big tanky Eldegoss loop approach, and there's also a one prize approach with, you know, the Cinccino engine, the Zacian having attacking one prizes in the active that recover resources to slow down the opponents, like getting back double crushing hammer, getting back power pads, using the new Team Yell supporter as well to get back more supporters into deck. Those are both avenues for control, so be aware of those. Luminion V, crazy card. Bench it, grab a supporter. You'll love to see it. Simple as that, really. We're going to be playing Quick Ball and Ultra Ball in a lot of decks. And Luminion giving us guaranteed access to Melanie straight away is a huge sigh of relief for aggressive approaches if you are the player going second. And it opens the door for us to play a ton of other supporters that are sort of tech cards as well in certain instances. In the early game, it can be your best consistency card, or it could be Marnie Disruption. And late game, it could be a boss's orders, so it's pretty much always worth the one-off space, I think. Then we have the Manaphy. This is the bench barrier. Simply a basic 70 hit points is an upgrade to Mew, a relevant upgrade because it's harder for Inteleon to just ping you down, which is kind of good. So Jolteon and Urshifu actually have to try and respect this card and probably gust it up, which does hinder their plans. I don't think this is the death of Jolteon or Urshifu, like I was saying with the Shaman V Star. We've seen Urshifu function very well when Mew was in the format, and I can see that still being the case. Possibly the fact there's a Manaphy as well as there's going to be Mew is too much for Urshifu to take. We'll have to see about that. But this isn't like murder for those archetypes. This is good news for one prizes though. Very good for the Rapid Strike Malamar deck. I think is probably the flagship one prize archetype. Can also be really nice for the like Galarian, Moltres, Hooper, Inteleon deck as well. So kind of happy to see this, especially because a lot of these decks are probably also playing Scoop Up Net, so if you are starting to get tickled by Inteleons and stuff like that, you can pick up the mana feed and pop it back down into play. So relevance, very good for 1-prizers. Possibly could be enough to keep them in the game. The worry for 1-prize archetypes is that we're getting very, very high power level 2-prize Pokemon that have very high hit point thresholds, and that will prove difficult resource-wise for the 1-prize archetype to keep up with that. So we'll see how that goes. We have Beartic, which is terrible. Raichu, it's a V Pokemon, has Fast Charge. If you're going first, grab a Lightning from deck and attach it to yourself, and then you have Dynamic Spark, 60x the amount of Lightning. You discard from all of your Pokemon in play. It's slow, right? It's slow. It's much more vulnerable than a Rayquaza. Rayquaza does an 80 multiplier. And the Fast Charge isn't a big enough reason for us to play this Raichu. Eels are quite happy to see... Oh, Eels, what am I saying? Flaffy is quite happy to see a Manaphy come out, at least. And you do have accelerators from, Boltund and this, that, and the other, but I think your threshold is probably too low. Even with Belt, you're having to discard too many energies, for the most part. Discarding 3 to 4 energies to deal with V Pokemon, and then, 6 or whatever to actually do meaningful damage into 3 prizes. Yeah, it's just not going to happen, right? Here's the Electivire, which is doing nothing. We got the Luxray, which is good for high power cube. Probably too strong, actually. I mean, Energy Crush is very dangerous, and a 130 for 1 is also efficient. Has to be very high power cube for Luxray to go in there. We have a Pachirisu, which is trying to bring back Tool Drop, but it does it in a very pathetic way. For Lightning Colors, you do 30x for each tool attached to all of your Pokemon. 30 is a good multiplier, and you're naturally going to be playing Choice Belts because you want tools. And the Synergy card is a Honchkrow. The problem is, people will gust your Honchkrow and KO it, and then you lose 120 damage and 2 prize cards. And we have no good ways to recover tools, so you will immediately lose a ton of value. Pachirisu, total meme. Its energy attack cost is also super annoying to try and use. Also, if you're up against any Path deck, you insta-lose because Honchkrow can't do anything and Patchy's terrible. So it's the hot meme from the sets. It's probably content, though. It's not a real deck. We have Clefable, getting some evolutions, no one cares. Claydol. Could be an interesting high power cube card. 180 is a huge amount of damage, but it's a high energy attack cost. And high power cubes oftentimes play Claydol, so something to bear in mind there. We have Dusknoir, which I also really like for cube. You can move around special energies with your Dusknoir. Way too slow for standard. Probably not good enough for GLC either. If you're playing Dusknoir, there's better ones you can be using. But this is actually a balanced Dusknoir, which is hard to come by, even in cube. Most of the Dusknoirs are too strong. Their abilities are crazy. But having this one that just has a flat 120... seems fair and worth working around because Special Trans can create some interesting deck building decisions. Trimecho is terrible. We have Whimsicott V. We have Fluffy Obstruction for 1 Psychic doing 20, and if the defending Pokemon is a basic, it can't attack during your opponent's next turn. Very annoying. Pretty nice opening gambit that you can go for. And then you have Cotton Guard 90 during your opponent's next turn. This Pokemon takes 30 less damage from attacks. Still makes you just the regular hit points of a V Pokemon. This does have a V Star. It's a 250 hit points, 2-prizer, Psychic type weak to Metal. You have Tricky Wind. For Psychic and 2 colorless, you do 160, and your opponent can't play tools or special energy from their hand during that next turn. This is a decent way to keep the new double colorless energy in check. Which is kind of nice if there are going to be these quad DCE style archetypes, like I was mentioning how Mew could pivot down that direction. Not saying it necessarily will, but this could be a great punish for that. It's going to be the auto win against the Pachirisu. Hate to see it. I don't really see a home for this attack, to be honest. The best psychic acceleration is Shadow Rider. This doesn't speed up Shadow Rider's win condition, and putting 3 energy on a Pokemon that's going to get knocked out straight away seems like a really bad idea. Because you're wanting to accumulate energies for Alchemy or Shadow Rider, so that seems very rough. It seems like a tech include if we're going to see archetypes that deal with special energy, but I don't think it's that strong. And then Cotton Ball does 60 to one of your opponent's Pokemon for each energy attached to this Pokemon. Again, shoving all the energy onto one guy just to do like one snipe with a 60 multiplier, just like what I was saying with Raichu. You need to overcommit too many energies to a 2-prizer to actually get the value from this snipe. And if you're like that Shadow Rider player that's just like stacking a bunch onto a Whimsicott, it's such an easy gust KO that I'd be concerned about it. So I don't think this is actually that good. I think it's more glamorous than strong. Unless I'm missing some sort of great acceleration for this outside of Shadow Rider. I'm not seeing it working. Because Shadow Rider is so slow, especially in this format where I want to be smacking your face straight away going second. You know, I'm coming at you with a Genesect for 2, like 80 turn 2. So that's the format we're living in. We're not living in the let's bench for Shadow Riders and pass world. We're living in I'm attacking you turn 1 for 2 prizes, and you gotta try and race me in 3 turns, otherwise I've won the game. And Whimsicott needs too much time to work. We have Sigilif, that's flipping coins, doing bad stuff. We've got the other Wormadam. So the worms actually have grass fighting metal typing. They're not relevant enough types. Possibly, like, there'll be a day where grass fighting metal are the most important weaknesses to hit in the game, and maybe Madam's Rage at that point has some hope, but until that point comes, they're all terrible. We have a Lucario, which is great for GLC, too strong for Cube, and bad for Standard. There you go. Not well. Okay, he self-accelerates and damages himself, and you do 10 plus 60 for each fighting you discard. So powerful, very powerful for one-shotting one prize stage 2 Pokemon for those of you in GLC. What else do we have? Not much here. Flipping for discard of energy. Hate to see it. We've got Golurk doing the big hand stuff. We've got Muck increasing retreat cost for poison stuff. I don't think we have enough easy poison activators to make this work, or a reason why we want to do this. So, yeah. We've had like a ton of stage 1 Pokemon that does, just straight out of the gate, like just being in play, increase the retreat cost by 1, and none of them have done anything. So I don't know why they added a stipulation for an effect that does nothing. We have Weavile. Wow, nice artwork on the Weavile. Yeah, we like that. And you're putting cards from their hand to the bottom of the deck. Decent enough for control, but I think it's worse than the Berserker that we have available. Here's the Honchkrow I was talking about when we were looking at the Pachirisu. It can have up to 4 tools attached to it, which is definitely good for meme potential. You can be a 400 hit point basic with 4 toughness capes. You can Shadow Fear and increase the damage output by 120 with 4 belts. You can have a random wacky combination of all sorts of these tools, but the Honchkrow can't really attack, is probably just trying to sit there for the Pachirisu. It gets blocked by Path, it gets gusted and killed, and then you lose all your damage output, and we don't have good tool reload, so yeah, pretty bad. Yeah, that just about does it. We have Spiritomb, not doing enough. There's the other Wormadam. These are kind of bad and not even interesting to look at. Klinklang, interesting possibly for GLC. It only reduces 20, but you already have Aegislash, which reduces 40, and you have a lot of tools that resist or minus 30, like Choice, not Choice, Metal Goggles and Frying Pan. So Metal Pokemon can be resisting about 90 or 100 damage, because there's also a Zamazenta. You can go Zamazenta, Klinklang, Aegislash, and a Frying Pan, and you can be reducing 80, 110. You can be reducing 130 damage a turn with Metal. Not bad. We have a Flygon V. For Grass Fighting, what is this attack cost? You do 70, and then for Grass Fighting Colorless, you do 160. If they're active, is a VMAX, 160 more, and discard 3 from self. One-shotting a VMAX shouldn't be taken lightly. Its attack cost is ugly, but we do have Arceus V Star. Is this what we're trying to power up? Is this the answer? So the annoying thing with like an Arceus Flygon deck is that if you're up against a fellow V Star archetype, you don't really have any good damage output. But Flygon plus Arceus seems reasonable enough to me. I don't really know what else I want to power up as Arceus just yet, unless I'm trying to like bounce between them with like the Sharon thing, or just Cheryling off and whatnot. So yeah, it's a payoff, and there's no reason why Arceus can't play a goofy energy count. So yeah, Flygon Arceus. Who knows? What other good ways do we have to accelerate this? Question mark. Yeah. We have a Pog Gibble. Look at him. Loving that. We have Garchomp, too strong for Cube, very good for GLC. It can prevent all damage when you evolve that turn, and 160 discarding the top 2 cards of your deck for water fighting, or just a DDE if you're in GLC format. So Chomp is busted in that format. Outside of that, yeah, probably bad for standard, I want to say. I mean, the ability's good, but there's so many ways that you just get gusted or roped or whatever, and then they're still taking prizes here and there. And the discard of 2 just means that you need to play additional copies of everything that you don't actually want to play many copies of. Like, you end up having to play, like, 2 Clara, 2 Rod, just so that you don't accidentally discard 2 of the stupid things to maintain your attackers. Yeah, probably not good enough for standard. More great artwork with Farfetch'd and lots of leaks in the ground. Genius. And it's not good enough. Okay. It's like a colorless version of the Basculin that we saw from the previous set, right? But for 2 colorless rather than the other thing. Castform could be good for low power cube. Actually, very good for low power cube. With draw and 30 for 1 is actually good in low power, especially when you're moving the energy off. Genius. Outside of that, Staraptor, very bad. We have Bibarel, interesting card, where you have Abyssal Hand coming back in the form of this little guy, this happy geezer. Drawing until you have 5. Very nice. What archetypes actually need this in format right now? I'm not too certain. Could be decent for the Malamar Rapid Strike deck, where you're putting everything to the bottom. You start with the Bibarel, then you start using Make Do afterwards, or something similar. That could be pretty decent. It's just nice having like Marnie proofing for some of these sorts of archetypes. I'm not seeing many homes in like real decks, multiple prize decks. I'm not seeing it because a lot of the time we're just going to be playing Bats and Luminion now instead. And there's still the Intel engine, which is just cracked and far better than Bibarel. So here and there it can be a nice panic option. I guess if we have a lot of discard in the format, it gets valued. I mean, you have to think about back in the day when Octillery saw a ton of play. That's because it went into decks that already played Brooklet Hill, which was just such a good stadium card. Maybe you think about it in the same light, where like if we're playing VIP Pass, you just grab the free Bidoof, and then it becomes a Bibarel at some point. But we don't have good enough hand disruption that we're actually concerned and need Bibarel. So this is a great card to have waiting in the wings, but I don't think there's actually too many homes for it right now. Then we have Arceus V and V Star. I mentioned it a couple of times, and I am excited about this card. I think it's pretty interesting. You have Trinity Charge for 2 colorless. You can search your deck for up to 3 basic energy and attach them to your Pokemon, your V, in any way that you like. Then shuffle your deck. Straight away, very good. You go second, you attach that new DCE, and you can straight away just get something into play. So even if you are just straight away knocked out, you can at least come back at them with another Arceus or another attacker here, there. So that's already very good. So you're spreading your threats immediately. Power Edge for 130 is very low damage output. But then we have the V-Star, 280 hit points. Pretty nice on a 2-prize Pokemon. And it has Trinity Nova for 3 colorless, you do 200, and you search your deck for 3 energy, basic energy, and attach them to your Pokemon V in any way that you like, then shuffle your deck. So like I said, there's the potential here to try and use that new Sharon supporter. There's potential to try and power up all sorts of wacky, expensive attackers, the likes of Charizard, the likes of that Flygon that we just saw, those sorts of cards, because the attack cost is made a lot easier with this Arceus V Star. We have good precedent in the past that these attacks have been very strong. Pikachu and Zekrom tag team, ADP. Both of these had acceleration from the deck, so it means that even if your active is getting knocked out, you already have that sorted for next turn without needing to draw a single card for turn, so you always maintain your attackers pretty easily. Being weak to fighting, a bit of an issue because of Urshi. Urshi potentially getting worse with Manaphy coming in the format though, so gains a little bit, worried by a little bit, probably still relevant in the game. There's also the V Star Power Starbirth, which I haven't even touched on yet, but it's probably the selling point of Arceus, of why you should be building around him. You just get to search your deck for any 2 cards and put them into hand. It's a once per game effect, but boy, it's strong. It's super strong. Just the fact that you don't brick as soon as you find this card is great. So it reminds me of like having Big Wheel to fall back on like a Dramper or this, that, and the other, where you just make sure that you're in the game every time. And the fact that Arceus is going to lean into things like the new double colorless energy, pretty big deal. You can guarantee like attachment boss on turn 2, which is crazy. You can do all sorts of things. You can make sure that you have your attacker on the bench so you can Trinity Nova to it and never miss that target. So I can see this oftentimes being a turn 2 play to maximize the power of your turn 2. But I could also see those situations where you've drawn well enough and you think, okay, I'm at least getting a Trinity Nova in a decent spot here. Starbirth can be that banker opportunity for me to just like win the game in those later stages. So going to be a nice, interesting skill testing card. There'll be nothing more terrifying than if you're trading blows against an Arceus player and they haven't used the Starbirth yet, because you just know that you're going to get blown out in the late game. So yeah, very, very good. It's like playing an Inteleon engine without the need for the Inteleon part, which is genius. So yeah, Arceus, I'm a big fan. I definitely want to get testing with this card, and I think it has a lot of potential partners, or could just be a quad Arceus deck where you're these 280 hit point mons. You can also remove weakness, by the way, with the Dunsparce that we've had a couple of sets ago. So that's also relevant as a one prizer maybe. Mincino is an upgrade to the current one we have in format because you can get extra basics, which is great for control. And then we have a Tornadus, which is Forcing Gust, but we already have this in the format in other cards, and it sees no play. So, yeah, big ramble. I ended up talking for almost 50 minutes. I honestly I could have spent 50 minutes just talking about Ultra Ball and how much that warps the format. Choice Bet as well has some major breakpoints. I know that it's only 30 in a world where every other hit point is going up way higher, but you get close enough with the threshold thanks to Inteleon pings and thanks to like Zigzagoon, and just, you know, we're having reduction from DCE, and now you want to counterbalance that with the tool. It's going to work very well. I feel like that card's going to see a ton of play. Collapse Stadium, it's kind of getting overshadowed by Magma Basin, but these are both cracked stadium cards for sure. I'm really excited to see how the chunky 2 prizes are going to shape up into the VMAX meta. I'm expecting higher damage output VMAXs to still be very relevant. The likes of Eternitus, the likes of Ice Rider, the likes of Mew, these are all going to be relevant for certain. But some of the more tiki-taka kind of ones might struggle a little bit. We'll see how that goes. Let me know your thoughts down below. If I missed anything, or if I read anything wrong and I need correcting, let me know down below. Let me know when you're excited to get testing with the set. And yeah, let me know if you're going to be trying to attend any of these tournaments IRL when they're back. Because that's going to be interesting to see if they all go ahead. I'm crossing my fingers, but I'm a natural pessimist, and I can't deny that. So there we are. Hope you all enjoyed. And we will be translating these pretty soon, or Jack will. And we're going to be building on tabletop soon and getting the internal testing done to hopefully get some early builds out for you, because I know a lot of people just want to completely ignore the format right now and jump straight to Brilliant Stars now that we have it available, because, you know, there are actual tournaments on the line going ahead. So yeah, I will see you in another video tomorrow. Cheers.